Hey, what's going on everybody? Commander Crane here, and we are back with another deck tech. So, I'm really excited to bring this list to you today. I've had this list kind of for a long time, but I never really posted it here for whatever such and such reason, but I'm really excited to bring this list to you today. So, as always, before we hop into it here, let me know in the comment section below. Do you like the list? Do you hate the list? What would you change about it? And as always, the deck list will be in the description below if you'd like to check it out for yourself. So, alright, today, talk about Gruul Manaform Hellkite. This is like I guess it's a monster deck, technically speaking. It's a very unique monster deck. Manaform Hellkite is a very unique card in Magic for the most part. Obviously, it's not going to be in our first slide here. It's going to be in our second one because we're going to hop into our early drops here, and then I will go on to explain Manaform Hellkite in depth. And then obviously, once we go further through the deck tech, it'll kind of, all the gears will be turning and understand where the deck is coming from. So, we're going to hop into our early threats here. Obviously, to no one's surprise, we're playing 4 Llanowar Elves and 4 Elvish Mystics. Obviously, great accelerators to be playing. Then we're playing 4 Bonecrusher Giant. It's a 4/3 for 3. It's a really, really great creature that we can play, or we can play as the Stomp first and then the Bonecrusher Giant. So it's red and 1. Instant damage can't be prevented this turn. Stomp deals 2 damage to any target. Obviously, pretty much a staple in Gruul decks, or just red decks for the most part in the format. So obviously we're playing Bonecrusher Giant. So next we have the signature card, Manaform Hellkite. It's a 4/4 for 2 red, to dragon with flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create an XX red dragon illusion creature token with flying and haste, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast that spell. Exile that token at the beginning of the next end step. So Manaform Hellkite, we're going to be playing big non-creature spells that help us take advantage of Manaform Hellkite. The next 2 slides here will obviously see how we're taking advantage of that, but long story short, we're casting non-creature spells to make dragons. So, 2 things noteworthy about Manaform Hellkite. So, you can play, obviously, we're going to be playing some big non-creature spells and attack with the dragons. Obviously, that's kind of the main theme of it. But also note that if we do need to play defense, we can cast, for instance, like Stomp. We can stomp a creature and then get a 2/2 dragon that we can block with if we absolutely need to. Not that that's going to happen a lot, but it is something that can come up. So, Manaform Hellkite is fantastic. Essentially, if you untap with this card, you're probably just going to win the game. That's how impactful this card is in a deck like this. So, obviously, that's why we're playing 4 Manaform Hellkite. Next, we have 2 Obliterating Bolt. 1 in a red sorcery. Deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If that creature or planeswalker would die this turn, exile it instead. Obviously, just fantastic removal. We're just playing 2 copies. And then we're playing 4 Wolf Willow Haven. It's 1 in a green enchantment. Enchant land. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional green. Then we can tap 4 in a green and sacrifice it to create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. Wolf Willow Haven is a solid card. It's ramp, but it's also non-creature. I was playing Sylvan Curated in this slot originally, but decided to swap it, obviously because late game, after we play Manaform Hellkite, we can play Wolf Willow Haven and at least get a 2/2 as opposed to Sylvan Curated where we cannot. So that's why we're playing Wolf Willow Haven. Next, we have some Planeswalkers here, which kind of, now that makes sense. You know, that's why we're playing Manaform Hellkite, because we're going to play a bunch of Planeswalkers and just get a bunch of value from it. So we're playing 3 Domri Anarch of Bolas, 3 loyalty, 1 red-green, legendary Planeswalker Domri. Gives your creatures +0/+0. We can add a loyalty to add red or green mana. Creature spells you cast this turn can't be countered. And -2 is a fight. Obviously a fantastic card. I play this in like all of my Gruul decks. It's just a staple. Then we're playing 2 Kiora Behemoth Beckoner. Although it's not mono green, this card is still really, really good, even if you're not trying to combo. 7 loyalty for 2 green-blue hybrid, legendary Planeswalker Kiora. Whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. And then we get -1 to untap target permanent. So obviously really good with our Manaform Hellkite and our Manaform Hellkite tokens. Obviously, if we play, like, for instance, a Chandra Torch of Defiance, which we're going to talk about next, obviously it enters and we get to draw another card from that, which is just fantastic. Then, I guess we might as well lead into it. We're playing 2 Chandra Torch of Defiance. 4 loyalty for 2 red Planeswalker Chandra. We can add 1 loyalty to exile the top card of our library. we may cast that card. If we don't, Chandra Torch of Defiance deals 2 damage to each opponent. We can add a loyalty and add 2 red mana to our mana pool. We can -3 to deal 4 damage to target creature, or we can -7 and get an emblem with whenever you cast a spell. This emblem deals 5 damage to any target. So obviously Chandra's a fantastic card. It's a 4-drop in our deck. Obviously puts in quite a bit of work for the most part. Enough said. I mean, Chandra Torch of Defiance is just fantastic. So, rounding out our Planeswalkers here, we have 4 Karn the Great Creator, 5 loyalty, 4 of any color, Legendary Planeswalker Karn. Activated abilities of artifacts your opponent's control can't be activated. We can +1 until your next turn. Up to 1 target non-creature artifact becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness equal to its converted mana cost. Then we can -2. You may choose an artifact card you own from outside the game or in exile, reveal it, and put it in your hand. Obviously, just a fantastic card. I really can't say enough good things about Karn. Obviously, with Karn, like, even though we're not, going infinite with mono green, it's still just a fantastic card to play in general. And obviously, it's a non-creature, which works really, really well. Then we're playing 3 Sarkhan the Masterless. 3 red, 5 loyalty, Legendary Planeswalker Sarkhan. Whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, each dragon you control deals 1 damage to that creature. Then we get +1 until end of turn. Each planeswalker we control becomes a 4/4 red dragon creature token and gains flying. And -3, create a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. So obviously, we're playing all these awesome planeswalkers, and Sarkhan says, watch this, and turns them all into dragons. We just swing out and kill our opponent. I really, really like Sarkhan. It's one of those cards where it's really hard to find a slot for it, but I was really happy that we were able to fit it into this list. So really happy about that. And then obviously we're going to hop into our lands. Shadow Skull Smashing is technically not a land, but I consider it a land. But we can also pay red X, deal X damage divided as you choose among up to 2 target creatures and or planeswalkers. If X has 6 or more, it's doubled. Works really, really well with Manaform Hellkite. Just wanted to keep that in mind. Next, we've got 4 Stomping Ground, 4 Carplusion Force, and 3 Copperline Gorges. Really nothing crazy. They're Gruul lands. I mean, they're staples for Pioneer. Not a lot to say about them. Next, we have 4 Crag Crown Pathway. It's the flip land. We can play it for red or green. Then we got 1 Boseiju and 1 Sokenzen. Obviously, just good, flexible cards to be playing. Also, really cool is if we animate our planeswalkers with Sarkhan, then this gets the reduced with the channel effect. So I figured I would throw that in there as just kind of like a funny tidbit. Not that that's going to come up a lot, but it is technically a thing that could happen. Then we have 2 Lair of the Hydra, obviously a staple green land. We can tap X and a green to make an XX green Hydra. We'll turn the land into one, not create one. That would be way too busted. Then we're playing 3 Forests and 1 Mountain. Again, I feel like I always talk about cool lands to play in a deck like this. Or not even a deck like this, just all my decks. I decided to just go with some original Zendikar lands again. I believe I actually had these decks when I originally played this deck a couple months ago. I think these are the exact basics I was using. So, I don't know why, I just really, really like these Zendikar basics. They are just very fancy. Beautiful artwork. So, that is it for our main board. We are going to hop into our sideboard here. We've got 1 Anger of the Gods. It's 1 red sorcery. Deals 3 damage to each creature. If a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. Then we have 2 Klothys, God of Destiny. It's 1 red-green, indestructible. As long as your devotion to red and green is less than 7, Klothys isn't a creature. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a land card, add red or green mana. Otherwise, you gain 2 life, and Klothys deals 2 damage to each opponent. Obviously, just a fantastic card against mid-range and control decks, and like hyper aggro, because we can gain life. Obviously, just staple card for Gruul decks in the sideboard. Then we have a whole bunch of one-ofs left over. So it's obviously going to be all ones throughout the rest of the video here. So we have 1 Treasure Vault. It's an artifact land. We can tap it for a colorless, or tap XX and tap it to sacrifice it, create X treasure tokens. Obviously just a staple card. It's pretty much just if we need the land. That's really the only reason that's in here. Really nothing other than that. Alright, so next we have 1 Tormod's Crypt, 0 mana artifact. We can tap it to sacrifice Tormod's Crypt, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. Obviously great against graveyard decks. Speaking of graveyard hate, we're also playing 1 Grafdigger's Cage, 1 mana artifact. Creatures cards in graveyards and libraries can't enter the battlefield. players can't cast spells from graveyards or libraries. Obviously great against Collected Company decks, great against all the graveyard decks where they try to, bring back their creatures from the graveyard, like Arclight Phoenix. Just fantastic in general. Then we're playing one Haywire Mite, 1/1 for 1 artifact creature insect. When it dies, you gain 2 life. We can tap a green to sacrifice it, exile target non-creature artifact or non-creature enchantment. Obviously, just like a naturalize that we can play, gain us some life. Just a fantastic card in general. Then next we have one Pithing Needle, 1 mana artifact. As Pithing Needle enters the battlefield, name a card. Activated abilities of sources with the chosen name can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. Obviously, we can shut down planeswalkers, any activated ability pretty much. Obviously, we're playing in the card wish board, so just a fantastic card to have in general. Then we're playing one The Stonebrain, 2 mana legendary artifact. We can tap 2 and tap it. Exile the Stonebrain, choose a card name, search target opponent's graveyard, hand, and library for up to 4 cards with that name, and exile them. That player shuffles, then draws a card for each card exiled from their hand this way. Activate only as a sorcery. Obviously, just a fantastic way to get rid of those silver bullets against us. And we can keep buying it back with Karn, because Karn, we search as exile, and obviously Stonebrain is in exile. So, fantastic to play with Karn. Then we're playing one Damping Sphere, 2 mana artifact. If a land is tapped for 2 or more mana, it produces colorless instead of any other type and amount. Each spell a player casts costs 1 more to cast for each other spell that player has cast this turn. Obviously great against the Nykthos decks, and it's great against like Lotus Combo. That's pretty much the main reason we want it for the most part. There's an argument to bring it in against Arclight Phoenix decks, because it makes it really hard to bring back the Arclight Phoenixes from the graveyard. Overall, just a fantastic card to be playing. Then next we have one Heart of Kirin, 2 mana legendary artifact vehicle. It's a 4/4 with flying and vigilance, crew 3. You may remove a loyalty counter from a planeswalker you control rather than pay Heart of Kirin's crew cost. Obviously, we're playing a lot of planeswalkers, so it's not an issue crewing this at all. Honestly, it does a lot of things. I like it as, as a blocker that we can potentially do, or obviously an attacker. It's just a fantastic card to be playing in general. It's not, obviously, we're not doing any infinite combos like the Mono Green Devotion list does, but it's still just a great card to play. Then we're playing one Sky Sovereign console flagship, 6/5 for 5 legendary artifact vehicle with flying. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, it deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls, and has crew 3. Also, what's really cool about Sky Sovereign is, even though it's still like a vehicle, so it's kind of like a creature, it's not a creature when we cast it, so it's really, really good with Manaform Hellkite, because we're able to get a 5/5 off of Sky Sovereign, which is just fantastic. And we can also +1 on Karn onto the Sky Sovereign, so that way Sky Sovereign can attack as well. No, not a lot of people know that, just figured I would mention that. Then we're playing one The Might and Weak Stone, 5 mana legendary artifact Power Stone. When it enters the battlefield, choose 1, draw 2 cards. Target creature gets -5/-5 until end of turn, or we can tap it for 2 colorless. This mana can't be spent to cast non-artifact spells. Obviously, we're never going to meld this with Urza, but it has that ability. 2 reasons why we're playing Might and Weak Stone. One reason is it's 5 mana, so we get a 5/5 with Manaform Hellkite. Second reason, -5/-5, able to take down Shieldred. That is pretty much the only reason we are playing the Might and Weak Stone. It's still just a fantastic card to be playing in general. Then rounding out our wish board, we have one Godpharaoh statue, 6 mana legendary artifact. Spells your opponent's cast cost 2 more to cast. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses 1 life. Same thing again, it's a 6 mana legendary artifact. It works really, really well with Manaform Hellkite, but also making our opponent's spells cost 2 more is also fantastic. Then we have one Cityscape Leveler. It's an 8/8 for 8 with Trample. When you cast this spell, and whenever Cityscape Leveler attacks, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent, its controller creates a tapped Power Stone token, and then we can unearth it for 8, bring it back from the graveyard, it gains haste, and then it's sacrificed at the beginning of the next end step. Obviously, Cityscape Leveler, fantastic. It blows up things, and it kills our opponent, which is exactly what we want. It does not get, we don't get a token with Manaform Hellkite with this. Doesn't even matter. Cityscape Leveler is just that good. So, all right, that is the end of the deck tech. I feel like that took a lot longer, mostly because of the card wish board that we had, but overall, I think it went pretty smooth. Obviously, once again, like I said at the beginning of the video, let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about this list? Is there a list that you'd like to see me build? Regardless of format, standard, modern, pioneer, oathbreaker, just let me know in the comment section below. And as always, you can check out the deck list in the description. If you're thinking about picking it up for yourself, it's a really, really fun deck to play. When I've been playing this on and off for a while, I played a variation of this in modern, and it was a blast. Let me know also if you do end up building the list below. I'm Commander Crane. I'll catch you in the next one.